manipulation, betrayal, and murder. Today we're going to discover who the worst women in the Bible were, the crimes they committed, and the story behind them. If this topic interests you, consider supporting us by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to help share this video. In third place, as one of the worst women in the Bible, we have Herodias. Before we talk about her cruelty, we need to understand what happened to John the Baptist. John the Baptist was a respected and charismatic prophet. He began preaching in the regions around the Jordan River, calling out sins and encouraging people to repent. He attracted many followers because of his powerful message and his life of devotion in the wilderness. The situation became tense when John publicly criticized the marriage of Herod Antipas and Herodias. Herod Antipas, ruler of Galilee and Perea, had divorced his legitimate wife and married Herodias. The problem was that she had also recently divorced her husband, who was Philip, Herod's own brother. This marriage was not only a moral issue but also violated Jewish law. John boldly denounced this unlawful union and did not hesitate to point out the moral consequences of their actions. His message did not go unnoticed by Herodias, who, feeling offended and threatened, wanted him dead. However, Herod Antipas had a certain respect for John. He saw him as a prophet, even though he was sometimes puzzled by his words. Still, under political and social pressure, and influenced by Herodias, he ordered John's arrest. Even in prison, John remained firm in his beliefs, becoming a symbol of resistance. But Herodias was not satisfied. For her, imprisonment was not enough. She wanted him executed. The turning point came during a grand banquet hosted by Herod Antipas. Herodias, in a calculated move, instructed her daughter, commonly identified as Salome, to dance before Herod. He was so pleased that he promised to give her whatever she asked. And then came the most shocking moment. Guided by her mother, Salome asked for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Herod, bound by his promise and afraid of how his guests would react, gave in. And so, John the Baptist, the prophet who spoke the truth, was executed. In second place among the worst women in the Bible, we find Athaliah. Athaliah's story begins within the halls of power in Judah. She was the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, meaning she came from a background deeply marked by political and spiritual instability. Her son, Ahaziah, ruled. But about a year later, both he and Jehoram, king of Israel, were killed by Jehu. After her son's death, none of the heirs were old enough to take the throne. That's when Athaliah saw her opportunity. She seized power, defying traditions and expectations. But her ambition knew no limits. To secure her reign, she saw the royal line of David as a threat, and decided to eliminate it. Athaliah ordered the execution of all the descendants of David who could challenge her rule. It was a brutal act, marked by violence and bloodshed. However, her plan did not fully succeed. Jehoiada, the high priest, managed to hide Joash, the only surviving descendant of David, inside the temple. Years later, when Joash had grown, Jehoiada organized a plan to crown him as king. During the ceremony, the people recognized the rightful heir. When Athaliah realized what was happening, she tore her clothes and cried out, "Treason! Treason!" But it was too late. She was captured, taken outside, and executed. And so her reign ended, marked by ambition and violence. And in first place, the most cruel of them all, Jezebel. Jezebel was a Phoenician princess who married Ahab, king of Israel, forming a political alliance. But her influence went far beyond that. She brought with her the worship of Baal, a pagan god, introducing idolatry into Israel. Jezebel encouraged the building of temples and altars dedicated to Baal, leading the people away from their faith. She became a symbol of manipulation and corruption. She also persecuted and ordered the execution of many prophets of God, including an intense pursuit of the prophet Elijah. In addition, she used royal resources to support hundreds of prophets of Baal. But one of the most striking stories of her cruelty involves a man named Naboth. Naboth owned a vineyard next to the royal palace. King Ahab wanted to buy it, but Naboth refused. Even with a fair offer, he would not sell. This deeply frustrated the king. That's when Jezebel stepped in. She created a wicked plan. She falsely accused Naboth, gathered false witnesses, and charged him with blasphemy. The result was tragic. Naboth was condemned and stoned to death based on lies. This story reveals the deep corruption and cruelty present in that kingdom. But divine justice came. The prophet Elijah confronted Ahab and Jezebel, announcing God's judgment. He declared that Naboth's death would not go unpunished, and that Jezebel would meet a terrible end. And that is exactly what happened. After Ahab's death, Jehu took power and confronted Jezebel. Even trying to use her cunning, she could not escape. Jezebel was thrown from a window, and her body was devoured by dogs, just as had been prophesied. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to help support our work. Take care, and God bless.